I recently had the chance to sit down and record a conversation with Jordan Owens, who is one of my favorite YouTubers. His channel is A Tribe Called Owens, which he runs with his wife and their daughter. And I wanted to have this conversation with him for three main reasons. The first thing is the fact that he was a professional hockey player for over 12 years. The second thing is the fact that their family bought a house sight unseen, moved from Ontario out to the Maritimes, St. John, New Brunswick to be exact. And then the third thing here is the fact that he is now a content creator and he creates awesome videos on YouTube. He has a very interesting style and his videos are just so genuine. So I really appreciate Jordan sitting down and talking with me. I hope that you enjoy this and you get a lot of takeaways from it as well. I'll of course link everything down below so you can check out A Tribe Called Owens on YouTube and Instagram, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Financial Freedom System podcast. I am here with a special guest, Jordan Owens, and I'm really excited to get into this conversation and help you get tons of value from him being vulnerable and sharing his story. So Jordan, thank you very much for being willing to be here for sure.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. I want to get started by kind of painting the picture of how we got here sitting in a hotel room in St. John, New Brunswick. And maybe to give people some background on that, could you kind of run us through who you are, what you do, and also where you grew up? Let's start with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'll start at the very, very beginning, the origin, I guess. I grew up in Niagara Falls, Canada. I guess my first career was a professional hockey player. Yeah. This is my past life. That I do miss a lot. After I finished playing professional hockey, it took me around the world. I was former prospect for the New York Rangers, Detroit Red Wings, and Montreal Canadiens. I played half my career in North America, and then I went to Europe, traveled the world, played in Germany, Denmark, Italy, and England.
Wow.
And a bit in Australia at the very end. But it all came to the end. Everything has to come to an end at some point. And I started to learn to code, started a job as a web developer for a startup in Toronto, was in neobank. That lasted a little while and, my contract ended. And this was sort of like the origin story of us coming to St. John. I am married, I have a daughter. At the time, when I was working for that startup in Toronto, COVID popped off and it was kind of like, they told us to stop coming into the office, work from home. At this time, we're living in a lower level, one bedroom, like 500 square foot, if that, apartment, right? And this isn't working. My daughter's like 1 year old. My wife is running around holding a baby in the background of Zoom calls and stuff. So it came to a point we just looked at each other. We're like, this is not how remote working is supposed to work. No one really knew how it was supposed to work, but we knew that wasn't it. But there was a big problem, which is the real estate market in Toronto. It's I guess an obvious thing. I don't even have to state. The viewers know. The world knows it's ridiculous in Toronto. The prices of houses are astronomical. The average working person, especially where a single income household, for the most part, for us, it was unattainable to buy $1 million house. And if I really wanted to do that, that meant probably working around the clock and never seeing my family. I place a lot of value on that, being around for to raise my daughter and to spend time with my wife and develop those relationships. So it's a complex thing. But what happened was I basically scoured the internet looking for the most affordable places to live in Canada. I'm very careful not to use the word cheapest place to live in Canada because it's all very relative, but most affordable. So New Brunswick was sort of top of the list for that. In terms of St. John,
for sure.
Yeah. In terms of St. John, we had a family friend here, a couple of our friends, like our BFFs from Toronto who lived like 5 minutes around the corner from us. They have a couple kids. They moved here maybe 2 months before us. So we did have a little bit of a connection. But yeah, other than that, it was basically like throwing a dart at the dartboard, landed on St. John, bought a house sight unseen, loaded up the U-Haul, that was it. That's how we got here on the East Coast.
I mean, with that answer, you covered a lot there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was a really big process. Looking back at moving in that transition from being a professional hockey player into coding and working kind of, let's say, a regular job, and then moving the transition to the East Coast, how did you know, maybe in both of those transitions, that it was time to do something different? Or like, what were you feeling? What were you thinking? Was there an obvious sign for you, or was there a different revelation that you had maybe?
Yeah, for me, it's, of course I would want very logical and reasonable reasons for my actions. Some things require, intuition.
Yeah.
There's just a feeling. And that's what it was. I knew when it came time to end my hockey career. I'm 36 years old. I'm physically fit. I still want to play. I still can play, but there was just a feeling, in those final years. It was like, okay, I've done this. I need to try something. I need to try something else. I wanted to prove to myself that I was more than just a hockey player.
Right.
So that's what kind of spawned, taking on a new challenge, which was learning to code. My friend,
totally different things,
something that I never thought I would be able or capable of doing. Right. So I was a poor student. I always thought of myself as, not smart in the traditional academic sense.
Right.
It's just something that the world just made me feel this way for some reason, being, there's this association with jocks or athletes being dumb. It's a stereotype, right? And I feel like I ran with that story. I told myself that story. Never thought I would be capable of learning to code. So that's part of the reason I took that on. It just so happens that I didn't really like it. Right. Yeah. I didn't like the lifestyle. I didn't really it just wasn't for me. I identify more with, I guess you could say, right side of the brain things. I look at myself now more as a creative than more of a logical person, less scientific minded, more abstract minded.
Yeah, and I'm someone who can totally appreciate you saying that, because I am always that logical, analytical person. But then stepping into YouTube and stepping into kind of some content creation, my brain is like, oh, I'm experiencing something that I didn't know was possible for me. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I just wanted to share, I totally get kind of where you're coming from.
Yeah. You need balance, but I maybe lean more to the right side. So coding wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't for me, because there's days I wake up, I'm like, man, I want to try to do that again, see how far I can get. But it was just, like I said, intuition. It was just a feeling, need to do something else. And now it's a constant thing. I feel like I'm still in that state looking for that next thing. As of lately, things are becoming more clear, and my intuition is starting to tell me, hey, go this direction, follow your gut, follow your heart. And now it's just a matter of building up the courage to take the plunge, to go for it.
Yeah, when you're saying that things are kind of developing now and maybe being more clear, is that something that you said or you feel is kind of revealing itself because you're taking action on things, or is that something that you feel is been revealed to you based off timing, or what? Because I'm asking that out of personal interest, I guess. I've had some conversations with people lately about transitions, and if I think back to my time when I knew, for me, I taught outside of Canada. When it was time to come back, it was an interesting experience, because they called me into the office and they said, hey, are you interested in coming back next year? We want you back, basically. And I said, oh, I've got to think about that. And I was 24 at the time, and I'd been in this spot for 2 years. And I've got to think about that. I walked outside, took 10 steps, and I just knew in those 10 steps, as much as I want to stay here, this isn't the right time and this isn't the right place for me. So I turned around, walked back into the office, and told them, in a job that I loved, and I'm so grateful for that I had that experience. I told them I need to go home, and it was just so obvious to me. So why do you think maybe right now you're kind of recognizing or realizing some of these things?
It's very complex, and I think about this so much because there's sort of two things at play. There's the intuition, or what I'm recognizing as omens. There's signs. There's people that are coming into my life. There's content. There's books that are presenting themselves to me that are just basically screaming, go, trust. We have you. The universe, we have you. This is the way, or I have you. But but there's always, you always have to keep in mind that there's self-deception at play.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to distinguish the two. What is self-deception? What is fear? And what is truth? Okay. So, for myself, for example, it's kind of like, I want to be a professional YouTuber. I want to do this as my job. I want to travel around the world with my family, creating videos of creating memories, basically videos for us, but hopefully others find entertainment, and somehow we can monetize this thing to fund it all. That's what I want to do with my heart of hearts, you know, but there's fear. How do I get there? How do we pay for our lives in the meantime? Maybe I should stay at my job. It has benefits. It's very cozy. I work from home. There's all these things. And those are like the logical, rational reasons to stay. And there's also fear that's there telling me to not take the leap. And it's like, what should I do? You know, that's kind of what I battle with. So I think, I contemplate these things and, hours at a time. But I don't know how to distinguish between what are signs of truth and what is self-deception. It's a constant game of assessment, I guess.
Right. And maybe in the next time we sit down and we have that conversation, you'll be able to give me an answer with that. And I would appreciate that, because I'm going through a lot of those same questions myself, and kind of understanding maybe what's for me and what's not. Kind of sometimes they look very similar. I found through my experience. So I'm excited to get into that a little bit more later on in this conversation. But I do have two kind of main reasons that I've been interested to connect with you. The first one being how you got here. So you told us briefly about that story. Essentially, walk me through the process that maybe you had getting to St. John. So how did you, after you recognized that you wanted to move from Toronto somewhere, how did you settle on St. John? You told me that you had a connection here previously, some people that had moved here, but how'd you get here?
Okay. Yeah. So apologies to the viewers. That was a very, Coles Notey sort of, intro. So yeah, I guess the more, fine-tuned explanation of how we got here, I hopped on Realtor, and, it was just, I started throughout Canada, opened up the search, and I put my, you could filter for price. And I think this was a problem. I ended my contract, for the tech startup. And what that means essentially is I didn't have any income. Yep. I had savings. I was pretty good about saving money through my pro career. Never, when people think of professional athletes, they think of millions of dollars. Yep. I never played in the NHL. I played 12 years professionally, I made over six figures once. Right. Okay. So I'm making, if you're a white collar corporate person, I'm on your level. Right. Okay. That's kind of I won't get into the specifics of how much I made, but it was around there. And just to add to that, when you play in Europe, it's easier to save money because they pay for your boarding car, they pay for your house, they pay for everything. So you have your cell phone bill basically. Yeah. So, I did save a bit through my career. I couldn't get credit. I went to the banks. I was kind of hey, this is what we want, a mortgage. This is how much savings I have. This is how much I have invested. They wanted to check all those boxes, in the computer. And then when it came to, okay, so do you have a pay stub from last week? It's no. Okay, we can't give you a mortgage. Shut the door. Basically threw me out of the bank, Jazz and Fresh Prince or something like that. And that's what it was like. So it was tough. And, we had to lower the filter on Realtor to an amount that we could come out here and buy in cash, essentially. Right. So that's what we did. Why I picked St. John. Yeah. A bit of a connection there. And I guess that was it. We loaded up the car and came out here. And our house is, I love our house. I'll be clear about that. I love our house, but it's nothing special. It's an old house. It's from the 30s. It's probably really small by most person's standards. It's perfect. It's perfect for us. Yeah. It's shelter. We're so grateful for that. Yeah. So I guess it is what it is.
I'm really wondering, as you turn the key to start that U-Haul, walk me through what you're feeling in that sense, because like I can't even picture buying a house. You didn't see the house before.
No. We had a great realtor. For St. John, Peter Coolin, gave us a YouTube video. So we watched that a dozen times, like just looking at every nook and cranny, or what we, as much as we could see. Right. And yeah, so pulling up in the U-Haul, I know this sounds crazy. This probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, but like I moved twice a year from when I was 16. Going to a new place, a foreign place, a place where I know nobody is nothing. That excites me. It doesn't scare me. I love that.
I'm sure on the other hand, if you were staying in the same spot for 5 years, like that would probably be, you're probably right now, you've been in St. John like 2 years?
Yeah, a little over 2.5 years.
Okay, you're probably right now being like, what do I do? Like, I haven't moved in the last year or two.
Yeah,
like this is probably foreign for you.
Haven't traveled. COVID put a kibosh on that. But yeah, I'm starting to feel a little like, but at the same time, it's like I'm making connections with the community that are real, building relationships with people, which is something in the hockey world I never did. It was like go to the rink, I'm with my teammates, and lived in so many different places, but never connected, with where I was living. So
yeah, that's so interesting you say that, because where I was in the Caribbean, I was hired there to teach it's a private school, but when people have ideas, when you say a private school, it wasn't. It was just an alternate form of education for people on the island there. Big expat community, but it didn't come with that, maybe some of the snootiness that private schools can sometimes have. Not that that's necessary, but I found it really hard to maintain relationships or even start relationships during that time, because people saw me first as a tourist, right? Because I just stood out, obviously. They saw me also as a student, because there were a couple medical schools and veterinary schools that kind of had a lot of North American students come down for. And like if I was meeting somebody in the grocery store and they found out I wasn't a tourist and I wasn't a student, they're like, well, then why are you here? And it was a really interesting, for the first time in my life, I stood out. And the first time in my life, I wasn't able to be in a spot where everybody knew me, everybody knew my parents, everybody knew my grandparents, etc.
Yes.
And that was so valuable for me to kind of get out of there. So,
to get out of
here,
right?
To go there. Right.
Yeah. And you were by yourself, totally by yourself. I was by
myself,
right? Okay. Yeah. So I find so much value in solo trips for that reason. I find with growth, self-development, spiritual growth, you're changing yourself into a better version, right? And I find it so hard, so constricting a lot of time to grow in an environment where everyone knows this version of you and they want you so badly to be that version. And it's like you just can't grow up. But when you go somewhere, especially by yourself, it's like, aha, I can be that person that I'm growing into. No one has expectations of how I'm supposed to answer a question or laugh at a certain type of humor or whatever. So I find whenever I come back from a trip like that, it's like you're a new version of yourself, and the people around you who know you intimately, they're almost like, wait, who is this person? Why are you talking like that? Why are you interested in that new thing? Like, that's not you. Like, well, it is.
People have always known me as a teacher, right? And then all of a sudden I'm a teacher who does YouTube. And then like I'm seeing that kind of, some people don't know that I'm a teacher and some people know I do more YouTube. And it's like, I've had people come up to me that maybe that I've worked with in the past, and they're like, are you still teaching? And they're like, I thought you were doing this business stuff or whatever. And so it's interesting to see those dynamics for sure. Coming to St. John, like what was the biggest obstacle that you had when you first kind of started to root yourself down here?
Yeah.
And maybe that's as a family too, maybe not just you. Yeah.
It was, in terms of getting in with the community, it was pretty much seamless. As I mentioned, I had a lot of experience in this, hitting the ground with my feet running kind of thing. Financially, we were still okay. I didn't need to have a job yesterday, basically. I needed to work, but I didn't need to be making a ton of money. Like we just, had to pay the bills here or there. Nothing too crazy. A funny thing, we needed, so our house is old. we had a contractor come in and just take a look around, give us some quotes on a few things. You know, I'm not the handiest guy, although it's something I'm working on. And so the contractor, Josh Perry, shout out to Perry Homes, he's become a good friend of mine. He saw my hockey sticks. They were in, I don't know why they were in my office. It was just, you know, we just moved in. He's like, oh, so you play hockey? Well, I'm like, yeah, you know, I play a little bit. And
that's how it works in the Maritime. Somebody sees something.
Yeah, for sure. Man, hockey has just opened so many doors and made so many relationships. This is just another example. But he invited me out to his men's league team. It's like, you know what? I'm not doing anything else on a Thursday night. Like, might as well. And, you know, I go out there and meet that, you know, I've met 20 people in one day, and they all offer something else and they all do their own thing. And yeah, so that was sort of my entry into the community. I met a lot of people through hockey that way. Main struggles, like there wasn't really any struggles. And probably the wrong person to ask for this, because I think there could be a lot of struggles if you're not used to this type of radical environment shift. You want to make sure you're taking care of yourself and make sure you're prepared.
That move as a family, do you feel that like the driving force behind your decision was maybe something that you felt? Was it something that as a family, everybody was on board for? Because I just, again, the part that I love most about your story is you just knew that it was right to do, and you jumped into that next step. It seems to me from an outsider, like it was like, we need to do this. Let's do this. We're here in the house. Is that something that was challenging to navigate, or is that something that it was like, no, let's go online. Let's look at the spots. We can afford this house. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So once we left Toronto, we didn't come straight to St. John. We actually went back to Niagara Falls to my parents' house, and we were staying with them for probably, I can't remember how many months, maybe 3 months or something. Okay. And you know, like I'm married, you know, I have a kid. We're living with my parents, you know, and I'm at this time, 35 or something. You know, it's pretty obvious, like that's not the right situation. And as and I have to be careful here in today's climate talking about this, but as a man, you know, and a provider, I felt responsible for my family and like getting us in the right situation.
Absolutely.
I know there's probably some people are going to be offended at that, but that's what I felt, you know? So it was like, okay, like, you know, talking to myself, okay, Jordan, you got to figure this out. Like, you need to get a roof over your head, you know, like, of course we were supported under my parents' roof, but like, that's not it. You know, that wasn't what we were going for.
You want to carve that home for yourself.
Yeah. So that's, I think, part of the reason we're so grateful. Even, you know, we don't have $1 million house, very small house, relatively cheap or affordable, but it means everything to us because it means we're together, you know, and we're provided for with shelter, one of our basic human needs. So finding gratitude in those things is so liberating, I find. But yeah, I felt a lot of pressure definitely to provide and get us to that point.
And that's an honorable thing. Absolutely. Regardless of who's watching this, who's listening, that is extremely honorable. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. I think more people need to hear that, but I think more men need to hear that. And that's not something that I'll apologize for.
Yeah.
You talked about needs. I talk a lot about values. I think values are really important to getting clear on what your values are and what your values aren't. And people that have listened to my stuff and so on, had conversations with me, they know that's really important. I talk about it with my students all the time. What are some of the values that drove this decision to move to a more affordable location? Because have you heard the term geo arbitrage before?
No.
Okay, so that's essentially, arbitrage means like you're going to take advantage of something, usually in a financial sense.
Yes.
And then the geo is based off where you live. And so people do this all the time. The cost of living in Bali is $500 a month compared to $2,000 a month somewhere else, right? So they move somewhere else. You've done geo arbitrage, as hard as it is to say that word. You've done that by moving to the East Coast.
Yes.
Was that a values-based decision, I think is what I'm hearing. Kind of, you've recognized what matters to you. So what are some of those values that people maybe can hear from you. Because for me, faith is important to me. My health is important to me. Relationships, self-improvement.
Yeah.
And then eventually I realized that freedom tied into the name of my YouTube channel and what I do is also a really important value for me too. So do you have a couple that you can speak to?
Yeah, my values are basically identical to yours. Maybe semantics we can exchange, but yeah, for us coming out here, it symbolized freedom, I guess, in the sense that if you are not paying $5,000 a month in mortgage payments, that means like you don't have to earn that amount, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't have a mortgage, or your mortgage is, you know, a few $100, that means you could probably actually work part-time, you know, and that means you have more time to do the stuff that you want to do, which fills your cup. You know, hopefully in a perfect world, our work fills our cup. It's not always like that. For most people, it's not like that. If you get to a point where your work does fill your cup and provides for you, like that's winning life.
It's a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's winning life. But the primary reason coming out here, it was that I've used the term real estate refugees, you know, like partly we just couldn't afford to live back there.
Right.
But I didn't want, and I never want to be a person that's mortgage broke or mortgage poor. I don't know what the term is for it. No, I love doing what I love to do. Mm-hmm. I just love it. I love making videos, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I had to work like 80 hours a week just to provide, you know, a roof over our head. So
totally. And that ties into the idea of financial freedom. And I know you have a video on your channel where you and Jess talk about kind of financial freedom. It's in the title.
Yeah.
And that might have been one of the first kind of ways I connected to your channel. I don't know. I've been watching for 2 years now. Definitely the St. John videos is what drew me there. I'm like, oh, YouTuber in St. John. Cool. And then I was like, oh, this guy's a good storyteller and he creates awesome content. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. Yeah. But you two talk from a couple's perspective about financial freedom. What is your definition of that term?
Yeah. Being able to do more of what you love to do. Being able to do more of what you love to do. For me, I and this goes back to when I was playing hockey. I remember asking one of the veteran players, like, how much money do you need to be rich?
Right.
And it's such a subjective question, but he gave a pretty good answer. He was like, you're rich if you can afford to take 6 months off and maintain your exact same lifestyle.
Yep.
and be fine. And I kind of agree with that. You know, maybe I would adjust it to a year. Taking the whole year and having the exact same lifestyle would be pretty cool. Yeah.
No, you nailed it. And that's absolutely true. And I think that people overcomplicate that. And financial freedom is really a simple, complex equation, but a lot of the times people complicate it, or they feel that they have to do something like work in a specific job or live in a certain place. Yeah. But you get to that you can change that equation, and really that's maybe some of the struggles or challenges, I should say, that I'm kind of looking at and going through personally as well. Hence why I share what I do on my YouTube channel. And I think a lot of people out there, given the past couple of years, are wrestling with or investigating as well. So it's cool to see kind of a lot of people, maybe their hands were forced to start thinking about this. If you look at inflation and housing and not being able to do what they've wanted to do, which is a negative sense, but hopefully there's some positives coming out of this for a lot of people as well. Yeah. I want to really talk about content and talking about content creation, because this is something that you excel in. And in so many different ways. Was this something that, for me, I had no clue how to edit a video, record a video, do anything. And I was actually training for a long distance triathlon, like Ironman distance. And I got an injury, plantar fasciitis and heel spur, and I was preparing for the World Championships, actually. It was going to be in BC, and I had qualified for that the year prior. So I was really going all out for that. And I got an injury, and it sounds funny, but like, I don't know if your history of injuries or not, but like for me, I could not exercise for 2 years because of something so simple and so didn't really feel meaningful at all. It's plantar fasciitis in the heel spur, oh, whatever. I learned very quickly how important your feet are. But with that process, I had all this time because I would be training 25 hours a week. I had all this time now to do something. And I went out and I'm like, I'm going to make an online course for teachers. That spiraled and that did really well. But I went out overnight because I had all this time. I'm going to learn how to do this. I have no sweet clue. I did it, and it's kind of got me here. Did you have experience prior to content creation, or did you, just like me, just jump all in it?
Yeah, I actually did. So back in high school, I mentioned I was a extremely poor student except for this one class, and it was an English media class. Oh. And the teacher was one of those teachers that, and we all have them, that just left such an impact on us. And his philosophy was, well, I guess he was sort of running a program similar to what you are. It was very student led. Cool. So he sort of pushed us in the direction of our interests. And back then, I don't know if you remember like the MacBooks or the Mac computers that were like the colored ones, right?
Absolutely.
Early 2000s.
How can you forget those?
Yeah. So they were lined up in this English media class, and there was a few camcorders, and our assignments were like, here, take this camera and just go. Just leave this school and just go create something. So I came up with this idea for a video. Again, I grew up in Niagara Falls, so I had my group, a few of my close buddies, and this project was called Boxers, the short film. And basically it was, it starts out with me, going and waking up my buddy at his house, and then he springs out of bed, and he's in his boxers, but he just runs out of his house. He just sprints out of his house, and he runs down the street in his boxers, and it's the winter, and he passes, another one of our buddies, and he turns around and sees this guy run by in his boxers. So he he jumps in. So at the end of the video, we're all running through Niagara Falls in the middle of winter in our boxers, and there's this really cool like wide angle shot. And it turned out really great. We were in my friend's like mom's minivan with the camera, and my buddy was filming. I was one of the runners, and the falls is in the background, and we're all like running. It's the coolest shot in the whole.
I want to see the shot actually.
Yeah, so that was like the birth of filmmaking for me, and the film actually got played in the IMAX theater in Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Later that year, I was away playing hockey, so I didn't even get to see it. But I loved that type of work. And I always said that if I wasn't playing hockey, I would want to be a music video director. Music's had a huge impact on me, as most people probably. So like filmmaking was always this thing that I loved to do. And as I got older, you get further away from it, and other people like take that on as a profession. It's still something that I struggle with today. I feel intimidated by real filmmakers,
people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually, it's a real struggle of mine, imposter syndrome. And, so I did have a bit of a history, but when I was playing in Germany, Jess, she's like, I'm listening to the Rich Roll podcast. There's this guy you'd probably really like. His name's Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. This is before Casey like really popped, right? Casey Neistat, yes. I assume.
Yeah.
And, so I listened to the pod. I'm like, wait, I know this guy. I watched one of his first viral videos, and it was called Bike Lanes.
Bike Lanes, absolutely.
Yeah, and this
classic video.
It's amazing. It's so good. It's so good,
and it's so simple as well.
It is,
which gets me every time.
Yeah, it's so good. And I actually watched that. Like, again, I'm a 1986 birthday. Like, I was in the generation of like people. There'd be that one friend who would send viral content in emails. And so that's where I saw Casey Neistat for the first time. But anyways, years go by, and I'm reintroduced to Casey Neistat, and he starts doing his vlogs. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, so many people were just swept away by his type of content, storytelling, and just ultra creative. So impressive. And I ended up buying a camera. And if you go on my personal channel, it's just Jordan Owens. This is way back when I used to do travel vlogs. I remember like unboxing it, setting it on my desk, turning it on, and being just like looking at it like I don't even know what to say right now.
Yep.
And I captured that moment, and I don't know, I just started making vlogs, and I felt so awkward and so weird about it at the beginning. And now it's just like, I don't even care how this looks. When I watch this video back in 5 years, in 10 years, it's so fun, and I'm so grateful that have it. And like, ultimately that's my, North Star. Like, that's why I do it, just for memories. It's so fun. Like, I'll sit with Irie on the couch, my daughter, on like a Saturday, and I'm like, hey, let's watch some old videos. And she'll see herself like as a baby, and she loves it. She can't take her eyes off it, and she's laughing. And I'm like, this is why I make this stuff.
Totally.
You know, and I have a ball doing it. And now it's a matter of like, how do I monetize this to make it into a real job? That's where I'm kind of at now.
Yeah. Tons of parallels there for sure. I haven't got to the point yet where I can walk down the street and in a big city with the camera out in front of me. But I have been I've been branching out a little bit, but Gary Vee talks a lot about documenting rather than like creating content specifically, or it doesn't have to be so polished. And I think that I would encourage people listening to go back and watch some of my old videos, because again, I knew how to do none of this, and I've learned so many skills. And that's, I think the approach that I had was more of a long-term approach. Like, hey, I don't know how to do this stuff, but I'm going to figure it out. And over time, I've learned how to edit videos, and that's gotten better, and filming, and that's gotten better. And there's a process to it. I think, that creative process, as you know, as a creator yourself, in many different ways. That's just one of those things that I guess if you have the mindset that you're going to learn it, you're going to improve on it, then you will, if you take action on it. Yeah, definitely. I feel just of sort of this week, I'm thinking about where this is all going. I'm starting to put together like a strategic plan, which is something my current job is teaching me. You know, I took this sort of white collar corporate job so that I could get access to credit, so I can get a mortgage, and hopefully try to make just grow, right? Yeah, acquire assets, I guess. Yes, that's the root of it all. But my work, I work at Hockey Canada, by the way. Okay, so cool. I'm the website coordinator there, and so Hockey Canada doesn't have they have a YouTube channel, but it's been kind of we haven't used it. Right. So as soon as I got there, don't take advantage of social media yet, or YouTube. Naturally, this is it sparked my interest. I'm like, hey guys, like I'm pestering my manager for like almost a year. Hey, like let me take over YouTube. Let me take over YouTube. So finally, they got sick of listening to that, and they're like, okay, take over the YouTube, man. Like stop talking. Yeah. So they're like, well, it wasn't that easy. It was kind of like, okay, show us how this is going to provide value. We need to see strategy. We need to see a plan. And I was kind of like, well, that's not me. I'm the creative one. I'm the content creator one. Like, let me just give me the camera and let me do it. Like, no, it's not how it works. This is an organization. And it sort of opened my mind to like how business is supposed to be run. There needs to be some type of strategy. So this chapter is teaching me about that. So I'm applying those learnings to now, my YouTube channel, Tribe Called Owens. Like my goal is to turn that into a job. Okay. How can we actually do this? What are the steps that we need to take? Have the vehicle. What's sort of the roadmap for this trip? So it's an exciting time, but this chapter in this corporate job, I'm seeing this is the lesson. This was the reason that I'm here, aside from, trying to get the banks to open their doors again. For sure. It's not a matter of like kind of what you're doing, I guess. As YouTube, it's not something that you do. Like it is actually something that you do, and kind of envisioning that and taking action on that. So I think that's a imposter syndrome. That's something that I've kind of dealt with. Oh, I'm a teacher who is a YouTuber. But at the same time, I could be a YouTuber who is a teacher. Yeah. Or I could be a YouTuber, or I could be a teacher. I could be anything that I want to be. Yes. And my question is, A Tribe Called Owens, where does that name come from? The name? Yeah. So the name comes from the hip hop group, OG group, A Tribe Called Quest. They were like one of my favorite hip hop groups. I thought so. I just wanted to check. Yeah. Just sort of like a nod to them, and just kind of this fun thing. It's not a serious name. I actually think a lot lately about changing the name. Okay. Just because, we meet a lot of people on the street now who are recognizing, us from the videos, and other people that I meet networking. They're like, okay, so what's your YouTube channel? And I say, Tribe Called Owens. And they're like, oh, wait, what? Tribe, they don't get it on the first
say. And I think that's important, you know?
Yeah. Why do you think that's important? Because like, I think about that, like, sure, a name is important. Like financial freedom system, I've gone through a branding or name change. So I ask you that because I've done that. Financial freedom system for me represents, obviously financial freedom is kind of the vision that I talk about. The system, I think everybody needs to create their own system where it's not just how much money they have in their bank account that matters. It's how their life is, how money plays a role. I talk about money being a tool to live out their values. So money plays a role in the life that we live, but there's so many different pieces that go into happiness and fulfillment in the end, right? So that system is like looking at all the different aspects of that. So that's why I'll talk about mindset, and I'll talk about money, and I'll talk about travel and whatever. What is it about the name that you think like is, if you changed it, would be better? Or at the same time, like, do you, because I'm sure people listening to this are wrestling with their own kind of thoughts about this, or are you, when you say A Tribe Called Owens, like, is that something that people are, maybe it's not there yet, but that's a sick name and that's an incredible.
I do love it. I don't know. It's just like, it's already like taken, like A Tribe Called Quest. And we started this as like a small channel that's just like, it doesn't even matter what our name is. Right. Like, this is fun, this is cool. But like, as my dreams and aspirations are growing, I'm like, oh wait, like what if my dreams become realized? Like, we can't be A Tribe Called, like that name is already taken, and I want to be on the same stage
as that. Yeah,
you know, sort of a, I don't know. It's not really a big deal. I'm definitely not losing sleep on it. I lose sleep over other things. Yeah, oftentimes money related, you know, in this sort of struggle, and I'll not debate, but have conversations with my wife about it. She's more of the airy mindset around money, where Think and Grow Rich, right? Yeah. I listened to one of your recent videos on the 3 money books, Think and Grow Rich. I turned around on the bookshelf behind me and I had this book. I bought it last year and I just haven't read it yet.
Right.
So I started flipping through, and I already knew the main sort of lesson in this book. I knew that already, but it's hard to live it.
Yeah.
Right. To embody that. My wife, Jess, she's embodying that, right? She's living that. Me, we talked earlier about being like the provider. I feel like I have that pressure, and that pressure with there's pressure, and money is associated with that pressure to provide and be very like logical and rational about my decisions with money. And I work really hard, right? I work really hard to get money. It just never seems to be enough, you know? So she's teaching me to change my mindset and to start thinking in abundance, you know, start thinking in abundance and not scarcity.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm definitely a work in progress, and change is happening, you know, it's a ongoing thing, but it's difficult. You know, I find there's just, to come back to like mindset with money, I do know, and I learned this lesson through our first house, a rental property that we sold. We sold this house, and at that time I had the most money that I've ever had in my life, and nothing changed. I didn't feel any different, not even a single bit. And that lesson, I learned it, but I haven't practiced it. You know, I still have that fear of running out or not having enough, but I do realize you will never have enough money. You will never have enough. Even if you get what you want to get, you'll just recalibrate what you want.
David Guetta, the DJ. I don't really listen to much David Guetta stuff, but I did see a quote one time talking about, one time I didn't have enough money, but I had all the time in the world. And I'm paraphrasing this, by the way.
Yes.
But then the flip of that is, now I have all the money in the world. He's one of the most successful DJs. I don't have enough time. Yeah. And I think that for me, like, there's 3 currencies I like to focus on. Obviously money, time, and energy. Right.
Yes. That's perfect.
And it's like, for me, I've been doing inventory. I'm not preaching to anybody here on this video. I've been doing inventory on how I use those 3 currencies in my life. And whether that comes to my job, my profession, whether it comes to YouTube and content creation, or my relationships or my thoughts. Like, I just think more people need to really hone in on that.
Yeah.
Let's jump into content creation, but the money side of that. Like, are there ways that you've monetized what you do? Because for me, I've been able to make money through like ads. I've been able to make money through affiliate links. I've been able to do a few other things as well. But whatever you're comfortable sharing as well. Like, have you chosen to monetize what you do? Yeah.
So we are trying to monetize. We do get AdSense from Google, but it's not enough.
It's unpredictable.
It is something though, and it's pretty cool. You know, you get, you know, you see in your online banking, it's like, boom, deposit from Google. It's like, this is sick. Google paid me.
Used to this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We did try Amazon affiliate marketing, you know, with the affiliate links.
Yeah. Small percentage.
That works really well if you have a review channel of like gear or tech or something. That
books, like I use it for books.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah. Our content doesn't really align with that, so it's hard to sell. Hey guys, this is the camera I use, but our viewers don't really care about cameras.
Yeah,
you know, so it's hard. But
you always have a really nice look of your videos. 100%. That's
Thank
something
you.
I can appreciate about your content.
Yeah, we had Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform where people can give like essentially tips. We call it like, hey, buy us a coffee. And we would literally use that to go to Catapult down the road or whatever and buy a coffee for us on Saturday.
Cool.
So we've had a few donations that way. I did just recently launch us on Patreon. So if people like our content, you find value, whether that's entertainment or information, hey, like you can sign up $5 a month, you know, like just to say, hey, I love what you're doing. Like, keep going. You know, $5 is not a lot of money. So obviously I encourage people, to support creators because it takes hours and hours and hours, not just out there on the street filming, but also editing, oftentimes days, but then watching tutorial after tutorial, trying to learn to get better.
How to color grade this thing.
Exactly. Bring better content and, you know, all the, paying for royalty-free music, paying for stock footage if I need it, paying for motion graphics, the little graphics that slide across the screen. Like I had to pay for them. So guys, if you're watching this, support your creators. It's all the same.
That link is going to be down in the description below. So definitely check out the Patreon for sure. The niche, like I feel like when I watch your videos that you've got like, you've created this really cool kind of like vibe around your family, but also around discovering a new spot, but also St. John and like the local area. Can you talk to the idea of like what your niche is, but also at the same time not being trapped by that and kind of doing what you want to do? Because I have had no problem. There's no pressure for me, I guess, when I make YouTube videos. It's like, I want to make a YouTube video on this topic. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Do you kind of feel that way where you have a niche, but at the same time, you don't want to be defined by that? And you're also creating what that is. Yeah.
YouTube first principles to be successful on YouTube. It's finding your niche and sticking to that and creating content within that niche. So your audience, they know why they're coming to you. You know, they're not going to click on your channel looking for cooking videos, you know? No. And our niche, our audience sort of has spawned from moving to, like, there's a lot of people who want to move to, you know, Atlantic Canada, but St. John, New Brunswick. So that's sort of our niche. That for me is, it's real time. It's what we're experiencing, but it's not the content that I want to create forever, you know, but it's the content that does best for us. So it's kind of like, man, how do we do this? You know? So the content that I want to create, I'm still sort of figuring that out. I'm really into spirituality, self-development, reading, you know, mindfulness, I guess awareness of experience, you know, and I want to teach that to others because I find it so liberating. We're living in a time where everyone is, in my view, sick. You know, our diets, our minds are rotten. We're wasting our lives on social media. There's no substance to what we're taking in, the content. So I'm creating content, but I want to create content that it's going to enrich the viewer, leave them feeling inspired, if I can inspire people, like, oh man, that just, fills my heart. Yeah. So that's my goal. How can I create that type of content, but still sort of give people information about life in the Maritimes, life in St. John? That's where I'm at. That's where I'm playing around right now. So
it's cool to see that you're wrestling with that idea of doing what you want to do as well, because the reality is, like, and this is not something we talked about, but like, if your niche is St. John and all of a sudden for whatever reason you leave, whoa, it's like, okay, is my identity gone in that? And that's not something I see in your content. Like, you do an incredible job of just portraying life and the season or the stage that you're going through at that time.
Sorry, another thing I want to add to that is that, and I'm conscious of this is a huge problem on social media. It's the highlight reel, right? Yeah. And when I do this type of content, these interviews, I hope people are seeing that, at least for myself, I have internal dialogue going on. There's inner battles. There's a lot of triumphs. There's a lot of failures too. And that's the reality of it. So I think what's missing from our content right now is, and it's not completely fluff. Like, I cringe at completely fluff motivational stuff. I think it's all BS. But I would like in the future to let people know that it's okay to experience what you're experiencing, and here are the tools to help yourself dig yourself out of this hole. You know, or maybe just stop digging and find a way, to a path to better feelings and enlightenment and these types of things. I think it's important. So.
And that's the same process and desire I have, kind of more from a financial aspect, from not being someone who is a professional financial advisor. And with my content, like, that's not what I want to do. I want to share the journey that I'm going through, share what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, and all of that. And I think that vulnerability, I guess, is really what it becomes powerful for the viewer, because I know when I get to watch your content, I'm like putting myself in your shoes as much as I can through a video. But you seem to really embody that. So it's cool to see kind of what the power video has. And if I look back at maybe it might be your first video, because as I've gone back through some of your videos, I saw this one, and you talk about a family vlog. Here's the start of our family vlog or whatever. And you're like, you basically say, well, I don't know if this is the first day. You kind of say that. And I find that so interesting, because I look at my own experience and I'm like, what if I didn't start recording these videos? What if I didn't go out overnight, and for whatever reason that made me, essentially, because I remember calling my parents up. I'm like, hey, I'm going to Moncton. I'm going to buy a computer and I'm going to buy a camera. And they're like, okay, like, why? Because I never wanted to do any of this stuff. So, like, just think about that statement. Well, I don't know if it's going to be the first day, or I don't know if this is the first vlog. Like, how would life be different if you didn't take action on that and actually make it the first vlog?
Yeah, that's I never really thought about that. And I'm so grateful that we are here and our channel is here, always trying to grow, and that'll come. But yeah, taking that first step is huge. I know you're big on that. You talk about that, in your last video, the freestyle. And, what I'm realizing as we have this conversation is how impactful, like, turning on the camera is, or using your voice. It's because I was inspired, it gave me a kick in the butt. It's like, hey, you're on the right path. Like, here's a sign that you're doing the right thing, like, it's all coming together. So I hope that our videos are doing that and our content is doing that for others. But yeah, thank you for, like, making me aware of that, because sometimes we forget.
Yeah. But I related to that so much, because, again, like, whether it's identity and I'm not a YouTuber, or I'm not a person who is interested in business. Like, I talk about that a lot with people that I know. I had never had an inclination at all about wanting to start a business or having a YouTube channel growing up. I mean, like, I remember the first YouTube videos were like absolutely horrible quality when I was in high school, and I never thought that this would be something I'd ever pursue. But now I just look at the world that it opens up to me.
Yeah. So you've been making videos in high school?
Sorry. No. I remember watching YouTube videos in high school when like the internet could barely connect and teachers were just getting laptops. And this started a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I want to make that clear. My friends were making a lot of videos, so I find it funny that I'm the one with a YouTube channel, but I was never involved in that process.
Okay. So I want to ask you something, like your mindset around money. Like where is your head at? What is money to you? Like how do you...
Money's a tool. And that's something that I've learned, and through my journey, I've never been someone who's gone without a lot. I've always had the basic needs to be met, at least. I never had to worry about my parents putting food on the table, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. They've blessed me in so many ways. But over time, just my bank account balance wasn't growing. And as you become an adult, you get out of university and you pay down like your loans and stuff like that, right? It's like, okay, now the money is going to start growing. Now I'm going to be able to accumulate assets. Like, what are investments? What are these different things? And that didn't happen. It was like month after month. I always had money there, but it never grew. And I was like, okay, I got to be doing something different, because I was decent with my money. I wouldn't go out and spend a lot of money. I'd buy, for me, it was bikes, triathlon and cycling. Like I'd go out, I'd buy a nice bike. My bikes were worth more than my car. But it just wasn't growing. And so my mindset now is like, okay, I see all of these things that I want to do, and I see money as a tool, not that I have to use, I guess. I talk about getting to use and understanding what that difference is, because scarcity mindset's like, I have to pay my bills. I have to get a car. I have to live in this place. And when I flip that switch to I get to, it's really changed my perspective about money and about life, I guess. If people can relate to that.
Yeah. What was that term you used at the beginning? About like moving somewhere because it's
geo arbitrage.
Okay, I think about that. I didn't know there was a term for it, but I often think of underdeveloped countries. So I work fully remote, and it would kind of be difficult with the time zone with my job. But if you can put yourself in a position where you're earning online income, you could move to India, for example, where, I was in India. I bought a single banana for a couple rupees, and I did the conversion on my phone, and it was like 0.3 cents.
Yeah.
I'm like, I bought this banana for less than a cent. So like, it's basically free. But yeah, you can, find an apartment in India for like $150 a month or something somewhere. Yeah. Okay. Mind you, the standards are probably going to be different than what we're used to, but it's possible, and you could maybe have a remote job that pays minimum wage, but be living as a king at the same time.
Yeah. And I think that for me, passive income was something that really interested me. When I first made that YouTube or online course, it was an online course that showed teachers how to use an app in their classroom to make videos, like the tutorial videos, basically.
Okay.
I made the first commission in my sleep, and I woke up and I'm like, whoa, this is totally different than anything that I've ever experienced before, not being in the world of business and not being in the world of online business. So that really opened up some incredible thoughts for me, but it really took a while to start acting on those, maybe deeper, I guess. And that's a part of like my big time plan. So what's your vision? What's your vision? Like, what is your big time plan? What is what you can dream and look at wanting to accomplish?
Yeah.
Can you share that with us?
Well, this, I guess, will be the first time I say it out loud to anyone other than Jess, because I just sort of decided on it this week when I started reading Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And it's I want to load up an SUV. I've always wanted a Toyota 4Runner. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted a vintage one, but like for a family road trip, I need to have like a newer one, reliable one. Load it up. I want to have a rooftop tent. I want our bikes on the back, 2 kids in the back. That's the only stuff we need, and go on a multi-month road trip from like here to Patagonia, Chile, or something like that, and make videos of it the entire time.
Yeah. Now
this is more of like if this is a balance sheet, this is more of a liability than it is sort of an asset, because that's eventually going to come end. But like, that is an experience that I need to have that I want to have more than anything in the world. Yeah. So I feel like I've chosen to do this. I'm going to do this no matter what it takes. The universe will conspire to give this to me. Now that I'm working towards it, there's going to be a long road ahead. You know, planning, somehow getting some type of sponsors. Like anything is I'm realizing anything is possible. There could be a sponsor that comes and it's like, okay, we're going to provide you this vehicle. Yeah. We're going to provide you the bike racks and the tent. You just go make content and say our name in the video. Like, this is all possible, you know, if you can align with it.
Realize that. Yeah. I wish more people kind of recognize what their dreams were and what that vision is and what they ultimately want to accomplish. And they thought about all the reasons that it could happen instead of all the reasons that it can't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll admit, I'm my own worst enemy with this. I'm feeling highly motivated, like inspirationally drunk right now because of the content that I'm taking in, which is so important. Cool. So important. Our content is king. Yeah. What you're taking in, it's programming your subconscious mind. Right now, I'm on a high of that right now, admittedly, and I understand things are wavy, right? So, yeah,
ride it out.
Exactly. In the lows, content's even more important. In the lows, if the default thoughts are thoughts of inspiration, thoughts of like, you can do it, you can just keep pushing, you're strong, you're intelligent, you can make things happen. If those are your default thoughts, even in your low moments, that's going to be better than the opposite. Yeah. If you're not good enough, you can't do this. Why are you doing this? Get a regular job. Like, who do you think you are? Yeah. You know, I've had those thoughts in the past too.
Yeah. And like you said, that's a wave of emotions too. So, I'll tell you what, I will be watching that series and, sounds a lot like a series that I'd like to do myself. So that's tied into the similarities we have. I want to make sure that people know where they can connect with you. So where are your socials? Where do people find you? Obviously on YouTube, but maybe a few other spots as well.
Yeah, so you guys can find us on Instagram, A Tribe Called Owens, YouTube, A Tribe Called Owens, and you will be able to find all of our links and contact things there. Cool. Yeah.
And I'll make sure that the Patreon gets put in the video description as well.
So make my dreams happen, guys. Please, I'm begging you.
Absolutely. Anybody has a forerunner that they want to kind of send his way?
For sure. One day.
Thank you very much, Jordan. I appreciate being able to sit down and have this conversation with you. I think for me, it inspired kind of a lot of thoughts that on the drive home today, I'll definitely be thinking about and the next couple of weeks as well. And as I watch your video. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.